HCR 2040. I've gone down to the Senate chambers to testify against it. It's an absolutely horrible bill. Um, it's not about improving schools. It's a political retaliation against teachers and school employees who are speaking out to protect public education and to stop the waste, fraud, and abuse from the Arizona voucher program. So this is how they're getting back at the teachers. Um, Anything that gives them power over themselves, gives them power over curriculum, gives them power over um, the classroom conditions, any of that, the state legislature wants to take away. Wonderful state legislature that we have. Okay, there's a budget crisis in the state legislature. After waiting over 3 weeks for a budget from the legislature, Governor Hobbs promised to veto all the bills that they sent to her desk until she sees the proposed Republican budget, which of course is being constructed without any other parties or members of the state legislature. The Republican Senate President Warren Peterson told media on Monday that the Republican lawmakers will release their budget to Democrats and to the public once they already confirm that they have the votes to pass it along partisan lines. The budget dynamics this year are even more difficult than our usual divided government chaos. First, Arizona has less money than it needs, thanks to GOP giveaways and universal vouchers, as well as federal cuts pushing costs down into the states rather than keeping it at a federal level. And finally, it's an election year for everyone. So every candidate is trying to appeal to his or her own base, however extreme that may be. So it's a real crisis and chaos. Here are just a few of the nasty budget elements that are being presented by the GOP. Massive federal tax cuts to Arizona's state code tax code that would cost our state 1.4 billion with a B in lost revenues over the next 3 years at the same time that it would gift a hefty tax cut for the state's wealthiest. Another, more drastic cuts to SNAP food assistance, adding to the nearly half of Arizona's SNAP recipients, including at least 180,000 children who've already lost those benefits. Republicans want to opt into a federal private school voucher program, which would increase loss to public education while adding millions to a second unaccountable and irresponsible voucher program. A loss of $300 million in interest from the state land trust to fund public schools because of no renewal of Prop 123. It was a voter-approved measure that expired last year. And in a bit of anticipation, our hopeful new treasurer, Nick Mansour, can give us information about how the treasurer's office can do something about the state land trust and get more money for public education. And he's going to do that when you elect him. And finally, the GOP is not addressing affordable housing, the cost of healthcare, access to childcare, and more issues that are a multi-generational burden and loss to many Arizona families. And that's something that often we don't think of enough, and that is that individuals, families, children who are impacted by these draconian cuts to programs and to communities that we value don't simply impact the children and the families today. It has a multi-generational impact because they don't get access to quality education. They don't get access to job opportunities, and that impacts many generations to come. Now, if you've been sitting under a rock, then you probably don't know about the Protect the Vote Arizona petition. This is another petition that you have to sign. Absolutely. And remember, we know where you sleep. This is a petition against some federal initiatives that would negate a lot of what Adrian Fontes has put into place. Voting by mail, voting early in person, voting on election day at county voting centers. It used to be that you had, wherever you worked and wherever you lived, if they were two different places and across the county or across the city, you had to leave work and then do something in a completely different area and try to vote there or drop your ballot there. Codifying common sense voter ID requirements, which have been Arizona law since 2005. Requiring the outcome of elections to be determined solely by the votes cast by eligible United States citizen voters. This is something that we want, remember? And forbidding the legislature from eliminating mailing in voting or reducing the early voting period. So all these bullets and more are voting pieces that we've come to enjoy. They protect our voting rights. They make voting easier for Arizonans. Adrian Fontes put many of these in place, and the Protect the Vote initiative will help protect them, not get rid of them. So we want to continue having these. Please sign the petition for Protect the Vote. And while you're at it, if you want to continue to have access to voting rights and ease of voting, please support Adrian Fontes in his reelection as Secretary of State. And here's the website you can go to. And now it is my delight and honor to introduce you to Nick Mansour. He's our candidate for Arizona State Treasurer. He handed in more than 10,000 signatures, all 15 counties, and he was the first candidate to turn in signatures for Arizona State Treasurer. So his support is out there. We want to make sure that you are supporting him. And after today, hearing him talk, there's no doubt in my mind that you will. He was raised in Arizona and is an entrepreneur, husband, and father to 4 children. For Nick, the state treasurer's office isn't a political stepping stone for higher office. It is the place to make Arizona the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And that work starts with investing in education so that Arizonans are ready for the challenges and opportunities of today and tomorrow. Nick knows that Arizona's money is our money. He's running for state treasurer to watch over our taxpayer dollars, eliminate waste, invest responsibly, and return money to hardworking Arizonans, exactly where it belongs. After earning an industrial engineering degree from Stanford University, Nick built a career as an entrepreneur that has spanned finance, emergency support, and education, all while having a positive community impact. Most recently, he was chairman and CEO of the Arizona College of Nursing, where he led the school to become Arizona's largest nursing school, a leading nursing college in the nation, and a significant contributor to solving our state's and nation's critical need for nurses. During his tenure, the Arizona College grew 20 times larger from a single campus to now 24 campuses in 14 states, while over 90% of the graduates passed their licensing exams on their first try, and over 90% found jobs as nurses. Ernst & Young recently recognized Nick as a Pacific Southwest regional winner and national finalist for its Entrepreneur of the Year award. Nick has 4 priorities. to increase education funding without raising taxes. This is what I was talking about earlier. Every Arizona student deserves access to a high quality education, regardless of their zip code, background, or circumstances. We don't invest in Arizona schools, not enough. We know that. That's why Arizona continues to rank near the bottom nationally in per student funding and overall education outcomes, reflecting years of underinvestment in our future. At the same time, our state is uniquely positioned with significant resources that should be working for our kids, our teachers, and our schools. Nick knows what those resources are, and he will put his treasurer's position to work for that. Eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. Arizona taxpayers deserve to know where their money is going and how it's being managed. Nick will demand transparency, oversight, and accountability in every decision made by the treasurer's office. Creating good jobs. The treasurer plays a vital role in attracting and retaining new companies, creating jobs, and strengthening our small business ecosystem to grow our economy in a long-term, sustainable way. Governing responsibly. Nick will keep extreme political agendas out of the treasurer's office and the investment of our state funds, and instead will invest our funds safely and responsibly. Please join me in welcoming Nick Mansour. Nick.
Well, it's an honor to be here. Thank you, Janie, for having me on. And that was quite an introduction. I don't think we gave you those slides. I think you made those yourself. So we're going to have to borrow those from you. But I appreciate that. And it's great to be back with the LD12 Democrats. I was there, I think, back in the fall. I don't remember exactly when, but it's good to be back. And I'll start with a quick story. Which has played a large role in me deciding to run for the treasurer's office. When I was 40, I was diagnosed with a tumor. It's about the size of a golf ball. It's right in between my ears. And, it's honestly one of the best things that ever happened to me. My brother and sister are giving me a hard time about the size of my head. You probably can't tell in this virtual meeting, but my head is large. And they weren't too concerned about a golf ball being in my head, but the doctors didn't see it that way. And I was scheduled for a 10-hour surgery. And that really gave me a chance to evaluate my life at that point in time. And I came to several conclusions, one of which is helping people is important to me. I didn't feel like I'd done enough of that at age 40. I don't want to get to age 80 and feel the same way. And as Janie said, I've been working with Arizona College of Nursing for about 14 years, up until about a year and a half ago. And as nice as the growth was, what was even more meaningful is we helped thousands of people become a nurse. If you are a nurse, or you know nurses, or you know people in healthcare profession, nursing is a wonderful, wonderful career. It transforms people's lives. And through them, we were able to improve the healthcare system in Arizona and, as Janie said, 14 states around the country. But I've decided it's time for me to serve Arizona in a different way. And again, as Janie said, I'm running for the office of treasurer to make Arizona the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And she told you what my three priorities are. So you're gonna get a big dose of education today, or discussion around education. But the number one is, we need to improve our education. We are ranked near the bottom. I don't know where we are today. I was actually in a meeting recently where I said, we get ranked 48th or 49th, and one of my potential Republican opponents said we're actually 45th. Well, okay, 45th is not where we want to be. I don't know if she's right in that, but 45th is not where we want to be. I've seen the power of education in my own life, and certainly at Arizona College of Nursing, our graduates earn 2.5 to 3 times more the day they start as a nurse than the day they started at our college. So it's a huge impact on their life. And we are blessed in Arizona to have an endowment fund for the benefit of education. It is a $10 billion fund. There are 10 other states that have a fund like this, and Prop 123, which Janie mentioned, is about the disbursement of those funds. And so the treasurer can have an impact on our funding for education two different ways, without raising taxes, two different ways. One is as a proponent of reinstating Prop 123 and increasing our disbursement, which would add another roughly 300 million to our education budget every year. And I am a proponent of doing that. But the second way is one that really doesn't get talked about very much, and that is how we invest these funds. And we invest these funds differently than all other 10 states that have a similar fund like this. And they earn more money than we do. Over the last 10 years, 12 years actually, our fund has grown from $5 billion to $10 billion. But if we did something like what the other states do, it would now be a $13 billion fund. So we've lost out on $3 billion over the last 12 years. And if we don't change what we're doing, we'll lose another $3 billion in the next 10 years. So one of my highest priorities is to change the investment policy for this fund. It's been 28 years since we've looked at how this fund is invested. It's high time for us to take a look at it and make a change. So that's number one. Number two, as Janie said, I do want to use the office and my background to help attract good companies and good jobs to our state. I've been an entrepreneur. I've built companies at Arizona College of Nursing. We created over 1,000 jobs. So I can use that background and the treasurer's office to work with agencies to bring good companies and good jobs to our state in a sustainable way. And last but not least is eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. And I'm sure you're all familiar with some of the things going on in the voucher program and how we reimburse people who are homeschooling their kids. In our state, we will reimburse you up to $7,000 a year if you homeschool your kid for educational expenses. But as has been documented, your taxpayer dollars and mine are paying for things like trips to SeaWorld, trampoline park memberships, jewelry, kitchen appliances, even lingerie. And, this is just waste, plain and simple. The treasurer's office administers these accounts. The treasurer's office actually sends the checks out to the people to reimburse for these expenses. And so, a last priority is to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. And I intend to do everything I can right away, day one, to correct some of the waste in the voucher program. So those are my three priorities. And as Janie said, there is a fourth reason I'm running. And that is to restore some decency to our politics. People sometimes laugh when I say this. We have gotten way too extreme, and we need to elect more people who are going to focus on the big issues, and education's one of those, and come up with a plan and work towards a solution. And I can help do that. I'm not a politician. I've never run for public office before. I'm a problem solver, and I want to do that. That leads nicely into a quick discussion about my likely Republican opponent. His name is Elijah Norton. There are two Republicans in the race, but the one we think is going to win is Elijah Norton. And I want you to remember two things about him. One is he is a very far right MAGA politician. He ran against David Schweikert 4 years ago. He ran to the right of David Schweikert, and he lost in a primary to him. He wants to inject MAGA policies into how the treasurer's office manages our funds. The second thing is he is also running on his business background. He has also started companies. His track record has things such as it's littered with customer complaints, customer litigation, claims of robocalling, and there's even a bankruptcy with one of his businesses. So this is not the type of person we want to manage our funds. Last but not least, I am very, very confident about the race we are running. The reasons that my priorities, the reasons I'm running resonate with people. We are getting all over the state. We're getting a lot of people supporting our campaign. Over 95 business leaders from around the state have now endorsed our campaign. We've got a number of unions who are endorsing us. We've got a number of elected officials and formerly elected officials who've endorsed us. The Arizona Bankers Association is supporting us. and we've raised over $1 million. We've raised more than 3 times more than the last Democrat who ran for this office raised during his entire campaign. So we're going to have the resources. And it's going to be about getting our message out. But of course, this is Arizona. It's going to be a close race. So we need your help. If you're willing to put a yard sign up, please let us know. We will get you one. If you're able to donate your time and money, that's very important, especially the money in terms of getting the message out. But last and certainly not least, we need your help in talking to your neighbors and your friends about the importance of the treasurer's office, the impact it can have on our economy and our education. This office is overlooked, and we need to stop people from doing that. And with your help, we will win. And when we win, we will make Arizona the best place to work, live, and to raise a family. So thank you again for having me. And Janie, I don't know if we have time for questions, but I'd be happy to take some if there are.
Yes, we absolutely do have time for questions. I'm going to ask people, if you have a question, just say question and put your name in the chat. You don't have to raise your hand or put the question in the chat room. I One of the things that came out with your campaign, Nick, more
Yes.
than any others, is I had no idea that there were such possibilities for the state treasurer, after all, to have such an impact on the manifestation of values that I have or that we have as Democrats, like education. It would never have dawned on me before that you could do something about education funding. I thought it was just, oh, well, the treasurer takes in invoices and pays them, and that's it. And I actually made a tour of the treasurer's office and saw all the was like going into a stock office or something, with all of the data flashing on the screen all the time. And I really thought that was basically the job. But there are so many issues that you can bring to people and say, "Hey, come through the treasurer's office to get this done." So can you go into that a little bit more? Because
Yes.
to me, that's one of the reasons why I so desperately want you to be elected. It's not just that you're writing checks or doing what someone else says, but that you have the opportunity to take the initiative for our values. So there you go. There's your softball.
Yeah. Yeah. I think two things on that. One is you're absolutely right. In our state, we have the treasurer oversees this endowment fund, and that is fairly unique to our state. Like I said, there's 10 other states that have it, and ours is actually quite large. It's the third largest of all 10 funds. And so how we invest it is very important. It's an incredible resource for us. And it is almost completely for the benefit of education. And even within education, it's almost completely for the benefit of K through 12 education. So, it's just an incredibly important resource, and our treasurer can have an impact on that. But I do think you're highlighting the second thing I'd say is I think you're highlighting something that's really important about this position. The treasurer does not report to the governor. The treasurer is in our state a constitutional position. The treasurer does report only to the voters. And I met with a number of treasurers from around the country, and the ones that were most impressive to me made the point that you should be, the treasurer should be working with the legislature and the governor to get the right policies enacted. It really, we should look at the treasurer as just one more elected official working on your behalf. And particularly around anything related to fiscal issues, and certainly education and how much we spend on education is one of those. The treasurer is going to either be advocating for positions you like or advocating against things you want to have happen. And so we want to have the right people in this position.
That's wonderful. Um, uh, One of the things again, um, that I looked at your resume and I thought, oh my, was being the national finalist for
Oh,
Entrepreneur of the Year by
yeah.
Ernst and Young, which says you probably know a great deal more about finance and opportunities and potential for taxpayer money. Uh, can you just go into that a little bit? Another softball for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do think, I say, look, I'm a problem solver, not a politician. And really, uh, gosh, we're going back almost 2 decades now. One of the big, and it's still a big problem, is the shortage of nursing. And, uh, you know, that's what Arizona College was about, is how do we address the shortage of nursing? We've come a long ways in Arizona, um, and around the country, but there's still more work to do. And so I think when you look at, me and my skill set, I do believe sort of taking a unique lens to solving problems is a part of what I can do. And this position gives me the ability to do that. And, look, in our state, we've got water issues, we've got education problems, we've got housing affordability issues, you know, many of these are going to require financing or some sort of fiscal input. And so I think I can help there. So yes, I do. I do appreciate that. It was very nice being honored by Ernst and Young, but I think it's just a recognition of something that I hope to bring to this office.
Well, and the bottom line is that not only is it something that you can bring to the office, but you've already brought that. You've already accomplished that. I mean, taking a college and multiplying its growth 20 times, and then instead of a single campus, now you have 24 and 14 states. That takes a lot of vision, a lot of creativity, a lot of dedication to the principles of that kind of education. Um, so,
That's yeah, I don't want to interrupt you. That's very kind of you to say. And I should say this. I'm still on the board of Arizona College. I'm not there day to day, and I'm bringing that all of that energy to this. I'm doing this 100%, and I will bring that to the treasurer's office. And I really, I love Arizona. Arizona's been great for me, and it's been great for my family. This is a way for me to give back to help Arizona. Enhance its strengths and hopefully uh, uh, fix some issues that we have. And that's why I'm doing this.
well, I certainly have total faith in your being able to do that. There is one comment. It's not a question, but I think it's
Yep.
important to read it aloud. Um, Former Fountain Hills Mayor Jenny Dickey. Norton attended a Fountain Hills Council meeting in support of the new MAGA ROT, ROT. It could be
Okay.
lowercase just as well, majority, along with the January 6th shaman and Senator Wendy Rogers, who have attended here. He seemed to be trying to send the message they are in charge of our town. Thank you for running. Hope everyone votes July 21st for local elections that very well could be decided in the primary. So your influence is statewide, but most of us are here in this area, and so we do appreciate everything that you're doing, Nick. That's the time that we have today. But
Okay.
there are many links for you in the chat. So I hope people will go to your website. Um, Money talks, nobody walks. So whatever you can give to Nick will be helpful. Remember, we have a lot of dirty money groups that are investing because they want their hand on the money till in Arizona. And we need someone with the conscience, the resume, and the commitment to get our values accomplished.
Janie, thank you all for having me. Janie, I really appreciate the great introduction and the questions. I'm happy to be a guest of yours anytime. And just in November, remember to pick Nick. Thank you guys very much.
Absolutely, we will. And yeah, please make sure you check the chat so that you get all those links. And also, we will be publishing the YouTube. So when you want to share Nick's background and his comments today, you can use that and send it to somebody else or sit there and watch it yourself. Now, oh, she's here. Beth is here. All right. Our next guest is Beth Lewis, but let me start. Right now, if you have not, you must be under a rock somewhere or whatever if you don't know about protecting the Protect Education Act. It is something that you have to be involved with, whether it's a signature, whether it's getting signatures from family, friends, neighborhood, whether it's contributing $1 or $1,000 for the movement. This is our opportunity to try to right some of the incredibly horrendous fraud and abuses that are taking place with money that should be going to public education. It is co-sponsored by the Arizona Education Association, and there are several of us today who are members of the Arizona Education Association. We have taught, some of us, for 60 years, 50 years, 2 years, and we know the difference, the negative impact that underfunding public education has on kids and on our future. We've talked every single month for the last 4 years about Save Our Schools Arizona. So again, if this is your first time, maybe this is the first time you've heard of SOS Arizona. It won't be the last time, and you need to be part of what's going on with public education. So go to sosarizona.org. Today, our special speaker is Beth Lewis, and let me read you a little about Beth. Beth Lewis is a mom, public education advocate, and K-12 policy expert who fights for fully and equitably funded schools for all Arizona children. Beth has taught elementary and middle school in Arizona for 12 years and has been named a Rodell Exemplary Teacher and Tempe Diablos Teacher of the Year finalist. She holds a BA from the University of Notre Dame and a master's in education from ASU. As director of Save Our Schools Arizona, Beth works to bring parents, educators, elected officials, business leaders, and community members together in support of Arizona's public schools, which strengthen our communities and our great state. Beth will present the AEA SOS ballot initiative and have vital information for all of us about the petitions that each of us can sign, check out, circulate, and gather signatures from family, friends, neighbors, and anyone who cares about quality public education for every child in Arizona, regardless of zip code. Support the AEA SOS critical efforts to protect public education and rein in Arizona's $1 billion off the rails voucher program. And the reason I put Beth's two kids there with hearts is that is what public education and being a warrior for public education is all about. Our kids, our grandkids, the doctors that we want well educated to take care of us, anybody who impacts our lives, that's what it's all about. Beth, we're so honored and delighted to have you here today.
Hi, Janie. Hi, everybody. Thank you for such a warm welcome. It's so good to see you all. Um, Janie, I'm going to share a slide deck if I can. Looks like I can.
Yep.
Yay. Okay. It was so great to hear Nick talk about his incredible run for office as treasurer. We are so excited. And also to hear him talk about the voucher program and fixes that he can make when he wins. And it's so great to see so many familiar faces. I am going to go over a little bit about the voucher program briefly since Nick teed it up for me, just in case anybody's new and just hasn't really been paying attention. And then we'll get right into the Protect Education petition. So if anybody is newer to the work, we've been around for almost a decade. We're a nonpartisan, community-based organization that is fighting for strong public schools. We have 20,000 advocates across the state who are parents, they are educators or community members, business folks, everybody who understands that public schools are so important, not just for our kids, but also for our communities, for our businesses, for our economy, and for our democracy. Um, so that's why we're all here, and that's what we're going to talk about. So, just as a baseline, I always like to talk about this slide. I think, you know, the classroom crisis was so well highlighted during for Red for Ed, which I just came up in my memories yesterday. And we know that that was 8 years ago, and some people just, hasn't been as huge in the news. And so we just want to make sure everybody understands that our schools continue to be massively underfunded, and that really has not changed. Because the legislature, quite frankly, still has a stranglehold on K-12 funding and refuses to really, jump in and make policy differences, and actually fund our schools. So our per pupil funding is still 48th in the country. And what that means is our students miss out on opportunities that other kids across the country have. It means we have the second most crowded class sizes. I know when I was teaching, I often had, 36, 37, 38 fifth graders shoved into a classroom. There was no way for me to meet all of their needs. And that is an expensive proposition to fix, right? It goes right back to the funding. In order to have less crowded class sizes, we need more teachers and more classrooms, right? And that is very expensive to get to right that ship. We know that our teacher salaries are abysmal year after year, and that is fueling, continuing to fuel our teacher retention crisis. We need to pay our educators not just a living wage, but a wage that, respects their level of expertise, their degrees, and make sure that their, working conditions create great learning conditions for kids. And then our student to counselor ratio is second worst in the US. The recommendation is one counselor to every 250 children, and we're at about 1 to 700. And so what that means is that when kids are having, trauma at home or something happens, um, oftentimes counselors are being shared across schools, or their caseload is so huge that, Johnny might have an incident that happens on Tuesday night, and he might not get any sort of professional help until Thursday afternoon, Friday morning. And, it's criminal. It's criminal. Kids need so much more in this state. And we also have a school facilities problem, right? All of this points back to funding. The courts ruled this year in a landmark case that our facilities are $7 billion behind in funding. So we have a huge way to go in Arizona. I will just say, oftentimes people accuse us of being 48th in education. We are not. Our teachers are doing incredible work in the classrooms. Our students are doing incredible work. We're testing, middle of the pack. It's the funding that's 48th. So just make sure, your friends and neighbors know that. That's a big distinction. And so on top of all of this, as you know, instead of fixing some of these problems, right, instead of looking under the couch cushions and figuring out how are we going to fix all of the crises I just laid out, the legislature said, nah, we found money in the couch cushions and we're going to send it to private schools instead. We knew that they were trying to do that for years because voters obviously, got to weigh in on this in 2018, and Arizona voters said, heck no, right? It was a 2-to-1 rejection of that. And yet Governor Ducey decided on his last day of legislative session to push it. And so we've all seen those impacts. We know that vouchers are being used by wealthier, whiter families. We know that there's no accountability, there's no transparency for the private schools taking this funding. And now we're starting to see the impacts. So I always love this slide. I think it really lays it out. People will say, oh, the voucher program, there's so much accountability. It's like, no, there's nothing compared to all of these other states the state does not need to approve these private schools. The private schools don't have any standards, any teacher certification, any background checks, any state testing. There is zero oversight of anything that is happening in these private schools that are now publicly funded, or in large part publicly funded. And that's a problem, right? I mean, we all know that with public dollars should come public accountability and transparency. Yet you and I have no visibility into whether kids are learning or how our dollars are being used. I already talked about this, but we do see a massive industry of private schools and then these pop-up schools like popping up in strip malls where, again, they're unregulated. There's no safety, there's no site safety requirements and no learning requirements. And so, I think all of us on this call who are educators probably really start to think about the kids who are going to be falling through the cracks, the kids who are not getting an education. What does that do to their life trajectory? And also, what does it do when they come back to the public system and realize, like, oh, that strip mall school was lying to me and telling me my kid was learning 8th grade math, and that's just not the reality, right? So we are only kind of seeing the first huge impacts, and one of them is, most importantly, the impacts on K-12 budgets across the state. So this is kind of the last piece of news that I'll share. I just want everybody to understand these kind of hyper-local examples of districts that are having these horrendous decisions to make where, the money is just not there, right? All of this money has shifted over to the voucher program. And we're stripped to the bone. So we see things like school bus routes that are being slashed. Multiple districts are just eliminating social workers. They just don't have social workers. This is from Dysart, but Peoria voted last week to eliminate social workers. And then district after district is shutting down multiple campuses in this rampant way that we have not seen this. It is truly unprecedented in Arizona. We've seen almost, I think it's 39 public schools that have shut down in the last 2.5 years across our state, which, again, completely unprecedented. Unsurprising, given where, all of just the dramatic defunding that we're seeing. And then we're seeing teachers and staff being slashed year after year, which grows our class sizes and increases that student to counselor ratio. And the last thing I'll say there before I start talking about the initiative is, a lot of folks rightfully ask me why. Like, why is this happening, right? We see this at a state level, we see it at the national level, all of these people that are attacking public schools. Why do they want to do this? The easiest answer, the simplest answer is that these private interests want to privatize public education. They do not believe in public schools. They don't believe in free, accessible public schools. They believe in a for-profit model, or they believe in, quite frankly, like an indoctrination model where, we've got white Christian nationalist schools, et cetera, right? So you've got these special interests. This is really tied part and parcel with what we're seeing with Project 2025, with Turning Point. Turning Point was an early advocate for vouchers, universal vouchers in Arizona. And there's just a lot of really deep-pocketed, really, really scary folks that have been pushing for this. So we want to start righting the ship and stopping this massive full-scale dismantling of public education. So we, meaning Save Our Schools Arizona and the Arizona Education Association, have created a coalition of parents, educators, folks all across the state, community members, retirees, retired educators, who have put together a ballot initiative for the November 2026 ballot called the Protect Education Act. And I'm going to start with the good news, because, we all need some good news. This effort has been highly successful, and we were so proud to announce that on last Friday, the campaign had 150,000 signatures in hand. So that means 150,000 have already been collected to protect education. I say that with the caveat that we have a lot more work to do. It's a lot of signatures. We still have 65 days and we're going to work, 24/7 for all of those days, because the billionaires that have forced all of this into our state are going to challenge every single signature, and they'll go scorched earth. We've been through this before, and we need to just have a big cushion. So our plan is to collect another 300,000 signatures to get to a total of 450,000 to make sure that we can withstand all of those legal challenges. So we're on track, and we could sure use all of the help we can get. And so I'm going to talk to you about how to kind of, what the measure is and then how to plug in. All right. So I think, this is kind of like the title piece. We've already talked about this, but $1 billion, this is the website. You can see that skyrocketing cost. I didn't even get into all the waste, fraud, and abuse that Nick was alluding to. But, as we see Arizona being so underfunded, we see classroom teachers are self-funding Kleenex and copy paper, and PTOs are funding also like pencils. And at the same time, we've got these ESA voucher parents that are spending money on ski trips and Disneyland tickets and lingerie and diamonds and big screen TVs, and the list goes on, right? And the only reason we know about those purchases is because of investigative reporting, right? I really want to highlight, it's not because the Department of Ed and Tom Horn are saying, oh, we found all this fraud and we're cracking down. No, it's because Craig Harris at 12 News kept digging, and they actually had to sue the ADE. They had to sue Tom Horn to get these files. So again, when I say there's no transparency, that's what we're talking about. And many of you have been with us along the way, so I won't go into too much of a history lesson, but we know that Arizona voters already rejected this. And so the legislature has refused to pass any reforms. So in 2023, 24, 25, and this year, so 4 legislative sessions, they have seen this waste. They've seen this abuse. They've seen that there are no safety standards. They've seen that there's no academic standards, and they've refused. So we believe, and I hope you all believe, that we should get the chance to put something together, right? A voter-approved package to put basic guardrails in place and to have basic student safety and academic accountability. And that's what we're doing. So the Protect Education Act, I'm going to give you all the details, although I will tell you, when I'm out collecting signatures on these lovely petitions, all you really have to say is, hey, do you have a second to support public schools? And people jump right in, ready to sign. And we talk about the voucher program, which folks are ready to crack down on. So we are adding new safety measures. We'll have background checks for school staff, as well as site safety for private schools. It does reduce or, hope to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse of these funds. It will ensure transparency, so we'll know where our dollars are going, to which schools and how much, which we don't know right now. And then it will end the coupon for the wealthy by adding an income cap of $150,000, which is nearly double the median household income. Based on data from Garrett Archer, it's less than the top 10% of income earners. So we're just talking about that higher level of income for ESA recipients. And we worked really hard to make sure that students with disabilities will still have this program. It was originally intended for students with disabilities, but we also want to make sure that as we right the ship and get funding back to our public schools, that we're making sure to prioritize our students with disabilities there too. So our initiative will return hundreds of millions of dollars in unused voucher funds to the Classroom Site Fund, directly to classrooms. And there's currently $400 million just sitting there unused. So this is a really important piece of the proposal that does directly benefit public schools and students. And lastly, we will raise the bar for academic quality. So private schools receiving funds will have the option to become accredited. So those strip mall schools we're talking about, or they can administer the state test. All right, so that's what it does. And as we wrap up, we know that we need 255,000 valid signatures. We plan to collect almost 500,000 by July 2nd, and this will be on the ballot November 3rd, and we will be voting yes, yes to protect education. So that's different than the last vote. And it's also important to say that this will be voter protected. So the legislature and politicians cannot mess with this with the yes vote once we pass it. So I'm going to share the link in the chat. And it looks like, yep, LD12 has been amazing, collecting lots of signatures. And there's also a depot at LD12 where you can swing by. I'm going to put first off the link to sign up if you have not had a chance to get petitions. Let's see. So that is this one. And actually, this is the volunteer hub. And this will take you. Oh, sorry.
This is Janie. I'm going to interrupt you just
Hey,
for a
Janie.
second to say there's absolutely no way that anybody would not have the information on where to sign or where to get a petition to get it signed. You can contact any of the Democratic legislative districts. You can contact the Maricopa County Democratic Party, the Arizona Democratic Party, the Arizona Education Association, or any local school education association like the Kyrene EA or Chandler EA, Scottsdale EA, all of these, or you can just go online and say protect education. But Ellen Shama said, please make sure you mention the phony one too. The fake petition.
Absolutely. Yep. So the fake petition, I'm so glad that you called it phony and fake. And thank you, Ellen. I should have pulled a graphic, but we can share that once I stop sharing. So the American Federation for Children, which is backed by Betsy DeVos, has put together a petition that mirrors ours, but it takes out any of the funding for public schools. It takes out the income cap. It has like a whole money grab where it's sending money all through one centralized system. It's a bad package that doesn't benefit public schools, and it is meant as a decoy to confuse voters. So voters might say, oh, I think I already signed that. I was at an event, some guy came up to me, I'm pretty sure I signed that. And the way to tell them the difference is, did it say vouchers in the very first line? Right here under, oh, I need to blur my screen. Right here under my finger, in that very first line in the rectangular box, it says vouchers. That's how you know that it is the correct petition endorsed by AEA and Save Our Schools. And also it says in the bottom corner, I-9. We always say if it's I-9, it's fine to sign. And it's really important that folks know that. If somebody you're talking to is unsure, if they say, gosh, I'm not sure if I sign the real one, they can sign the real one and their signature will only count once. It is not lawful to knowingly sign something twice in an effort to like bolster signatures. But if you're not sure, that's not your friend's fault and they can absolutely sign again. And we can reassure them that their signature will only count once through the Secretary of State. I see Nadine has a question. What would happen if both got on the ballot and both passed? That is an open legal question. We don't think that they intend to submit these signatures to the ballot. We think that this is solely a ruse to confuse voters. But we do have lawyers looking at that. Because they're so closely mirrored, it could be the highest vote getter would be most successful. But because there are key differences, there is a world where perhaps provisions from each would stand. I think it would be a lengthy legal battle. I know that was a non-answer, but that's all I have. Sorry. All right. So I really hope that all of you will join us. If you don't already have petitions, please grab one or two. Even if you know 5 people who will sign, that is wonderful. Every single signature truly, truly counts as they come in from across the state. We want to make sure that everybody who cares about public schools was able to have those conversations with their friends, family, neighbors, and everything you can do is so helpful. We are here to support you. And there are just a whole web of incredible folks working on this all across the state. So no
Beth,
matter where you are, we will support.
thank you so much for coming today. You're absolutely right. I don't want people to be intimidated saying, "Oh, I can't get a whole petition filled with 10 people or 15 people." No, if you're the only one who signs the petition, or if you can only get one friend and there's only one signature on it, turn it in, because that's one that
Yeah.
we didn't have before, and every signature counts. So if you think you can get one, do it. Get a petition and circulate it. And if you want to email or go on Facebook to SOS or AEA or Blue Tuesday and say, "Hey, I need more information," or "I want to sign," or "I want to get a petition," we'll make it happen. So you don't have to have a lot of information. You just have to have the willingness to be responsible for one signature, and it could be yours.
Well, I just want to flag, Jeannie, we don't recommend signing your own petition. They
That's right.
usually throw those out. But you can definitely sign a friend's. You guys could swap, and then get those notarized, and your signature will absolutely count. But yes, to everything you just said, that just one or two is totally great and truly matters. Yes.
And Lisa Calderon, bless her heart, I think she works 25/8 on SOS issues. She's put her phone number so you can call or text her. And I know Lisa, if you call her within 24 hours, she'll have whatever you want. She'll have a petition for you to sign. She'll have 1 or 20 for you to sign out. She'll probably be able to give you some turf of people who we think would love to sign it and need someone to go to their homes and say, "Here it is, sign it." So, Lisa, thank you so much for all the work you do. Please check her phone number in the chat. And again, contact anybody at sosarizona.org. All you have to do is say, "Hey, I want to help." And we'll get 50 people on you to help you.
Absolutely. And I know we don't have a ton more time, but I just want to say that, people have been so excited to sign this. It's actually been the
Yes,
easiest petition I've ever circulated in my life. Like, I don't even have to explain it to people. They just like grab the pen out of your hand and start signing.
exactly.
So, if you want to kind of organize yourself, take a buddy, stand in front of, a local library, there's a free speech zone. Some people just kind of set up at a coffee table or a table at a coffee shop. They just have a little sign, it can just be a little homemade sign the petition. And you'd be surprised how people might just come over and be ready to sign. We have permission to be at Brick Road Coffee anytime we want. So you could just truly park in front of Brick Road anytime you want. We have a lot of shifts. I don't know, Lisa, if you have maybe the changing hands shift, if anybody wanted to sign up to volunteer.
Oh,
Um,
we need notaries too.
we do.
Yeah.
We really do.
And
Yeah.
Allison Jackson is in the audience today, and she's the one who spends her life at Yellow Brick Cafe. Um, I
And
think she likes
change
the coffee there, but she also gets lots of signatures.
and
But really,
changing
the
changing
the
hands.
petitions roll up very nicely and fit in a purse or a pocket and a pen. And when you're checking out groceries, or if you're at a lunch with another friend or two other friends, it's a perfect thing to do. Just have people sign. And as Beth said before, if someone has signed the same petition before, it doesn't matter. The first signature will count, and then the other one will just be tossed out. And some people just can't remember, especially with the potential this year of 28 petitions being circulated, initiatives. So, yeah.
Changing Hands has notary Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 4.
Yes, on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, you
And
probably said that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't we sign our own petition?
So typically they'll go after that and say, if you notarize the back that you witnessed that person sign, you can't witness yourself sign. So it doesn't usually hold up in court.
Okay, because I had never heard that before.
Yeah. So feel free if you accidentally think you signed your own petition, you can sign a friend's next time you
Friends.
see them.
Okay.
I know it's not a huge deal. It doesn't jeopardize the other
Yeah.
signatures in any way. It's just I don't know. I personally I want my signature to count. I'm just so
Yes.
excited to sign. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So Beth, again, thank you so much for all the years of work that you've put in for public education. It's just phenomenal. And that's why I love the picture of your kids, because to me that's your purpose. That's your reason for working so hard for public education, because you know you want the best for them and the best opportunity in their lives. And we all do for our own kids and our grandkids and nieces and nephews and everybody that we have. So thank you. Kudos to you for the difference that you've made, the positive impact you've made for students and families and teachers. We really appreciate it.
You're
Appreciate
so
the weak
kind.
word, what the way we feel. Thank you so
No,
much.
you're so kind. And I just want to say yes to my kids, but also being a teacher for 12 years and thinking about the power of public education and witnessing it. I mean, I've been out of the classroom for 2 years. Last night, I went to my son is on the unified sports team, and unified means that like student athletes partner with students with disabilities to make sure that all students get the chance to have that experience of playing in games and having audiences. And I was like trying not to cry for most of a flag football game because it was so beautiful. And like the way that they were helping each other and helping the other teams and just seeing these opportunities at our public schools where they're not just teaching academics, they're teaching people how to love each other, see each other for like the strengths that we all have. I don't know. Oh, I'm always a big believer in public schools, but I just was walking away from that like, holy moly. Um, this is what we're fighting for. All
Yeah.
of our kids. Yep.
Absolutely. And it's at least, I think, 70% of Arizonans who support public education. It's just the people who get elected to the state legislature who make those poor decisions. So we'll change that. We'll change that. Again,
Bless
thank
you,
you so
Beth.
much,
Thank
Beth.
you.
Thank you all so much. Thanks for having me.
And one of the slides that I put up had the caution about the fake one. So I just wanted to show you that. Okay. Now, so we've come to the end of our show. We will be sending out in our newsletter again the URL for the YouTube for today's session. And please join us May 26th when we have Jody from the Alzheimer's Association. And I guarantee you, you will walk away with at least one piece of information that you can use with yourself. Dr. Elizabeth Jacobs, an update on the non-vax epidemic and the subsequent epidemics it is causing in our country, and Scottsdale City Council candidates. So please join us then. Have a fabulous month of May, and we will see you May 26th. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you. Bye, Mike and Kathy.